All right, welcome to CCIM Illinois' mentorship programs, CCIM Chat. So great to be here with you all this morning. How about I turn my video on? And we're happy to see you and happy to get going. Chirayu is our president of CCIM Illinois, and he is our guest speaker for today. And I'm excited to introduce him to you and let him go with what it is and what it takes to become a CCIM, what his journey was like, and any inspirational tips and tricks he may have. Chirayu is with DL3 Realty as a director of leasing. He began with them in 2019 and is responsible for overseeing their financial performance of their portfolio for commercial, retail, and mixed use properties. He was an asset manager for CV Ventures, and he oversaw $35 million portfolios of multifamily properties in the Chicagoland area. He earned his Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science and Economics from the University of Illinois. Certainly love to know how that transitioned into real estate. And he was awarded the CCIM designation after completing $100 million in commercial transactions. So this is the guy you want to listen to today. So listen up and take notes. Without further ado, Chirayu, our current president of CCIM Illinois, welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Good morning. Thank you for that kind introduction, Sean, and thank you to both you and to Amy for continuing to do, this mentorship program now in its third year. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
So I think it just shows, we've had some mentees in the past, including one mentee specifically that actually I got to pin this past April when they took their exam and completed their portfolio in Miami of earlier this year. So I got to do that, and that was a pretty big account. It was nice to see that someone that had gone through this program, done the coursework, got that portfolio transactions, and is now a designee. So is, essentially sitting on this, sitting, and I hope all of you on here, I hope to do, you get to, do that soon as well. There are a few that are, sitting for their exam in October of this year. That's in Vancouver. But then in April of next year, it will be in Philadelphia. So depending on where you are along the process, maybe I might see you there, or I might see you in a future, CCIM forum, as they call them now, spring and fall forums for your exam and designation. So thank you for that. I think what I can do, Sean, is that if anyone has a question, please don't hesitate to raise your hand, and I'm sure Sean or someone on the call we will interrupt me. But what I can do, start with just a quick overview of what I do. Why did I pursue the CCIM, or get involved in commercial real estate and go from there? So first and foremost, my background was actually in public policy. I had studied and was working for nonprofit organizations, doing, some public policy advocacy and so forth. And that was only for a few years, but I did want to get involved in real estate. So I got involved in real estate in 2011, that's when I first got my license. And at the time, the market still, I was very new, the market still wasn't doing it. So I had to actually, my first job was actually leasing apartments. That's what I was trying to do. And so I did that and then I, sold a couple of homes and whatnot, but I knew that it wasn't really brokerage, real estate brokerage wasn't necessarily my strength. And it's not something that I was looking to do. So what I initially started working with was a local company, Cloudview Real Estate Group, that managed and bought and rehabbed apartment buildings. So that's where I really started. It was like a four-person team. So it was, a great learning experience. I usually like small groups. I think it gave me an opportunity to really, um, like part of the advantage I think that it gave me in a small group is that when anything needed to be done, I would volunteer and even though I had never done it, it gave me exposure to building owners. And it gave me exposure to leadership of the company, that they showed that even though I may not have known what to do, at least I was showing interest and trying to do my hard work to deliver them results. And I think that that's what really sort of helped me advance early on in my career. After working there for a few years, I started working with CV Ventures. And what they did was that they were doing the same thing in my opinion, but they were doing it at a different scale, right? So part of the challenge was that they had a portfolio of apartment buildings that had fallen, due to age, due to obsolescence, due to just the general market in general. Rents had been falling. They weren't doing good in their collections. Some of the buildings that they operated were in financial trouble, had loans that really didn't pay, that weren't being able to be paid because there wasn't enough rent coming in and all of that. And so what I did with them was really organize their portfolio, structure it by placing debt that was equivalent to its value or less than its value, and then really reposition them through rehabilitation, construction, and of course, new tenants and investment as well to really get that portfolio manageable. And that's where I really got exposed to the commercial real estate part of it in terms of, commercial real estate is not just brokerage, right? And I think that that's what CV Ventures is where I really learned what is an asset manager, what is a property manager, how can an asset manager and a property manager work together? How can, you look at each entity or building, whatever that may be, as its own economic unit in terms of what you're trying to deliver to the market. And that's what really sort of shaped, my understanding of commercial real estate. And then as I got more involved in it, I learned about, the different ways transactions happen. I learned about 1031 exchanges and all of that. And all of this alphabet soup, yes, it's easy to get lost in it, but at the end of the day, you're essentially a problem solver for your business and building and landowners, right? They're trying to figure out they have this property that's doing well. They have invested money. What's the best way you can deliver them value? And as you go into your careers, I think that one of the ways that you can stand out is that figure out what is this, how can you be a problem solver with them? And I think that as once they get that trust from you, you'll be able to, you'll be able to you'll be able to get more meetings and get on their good side, so to speak. Well, in short, hopefully your deal flow will increase, right? I think that's all of us are trying to figure that out is how do we, continue to provide value to our clients and to our customers, and what's the best way to achieve that? So that's how I, got my exposure to commercial real estate. I know that this wasn't all of it. I wanted to focus on development, right? A lot of it's great to work on apartment buildings and multifamily buildings. I think that I had sort of my feeling at the time in 2018, 2017, when I was considering like change in my career path, like meaning in moving into more on the development side, I was like, what is it something that I want to do and something new that I want to learn? And so that's how I got connected later in 2018 to DL3 Realty, which is where I started working in 2019. And I got exposed to the principal of the firm, Leon Walker, and the unique developments that he has undertaken in the city of Chicago, right? And so I knew that, to get hired by DL3, I needed to show that, hey, not only do I have good experience, but I'm consistently willing to learn and showing what I'm learning, right? So actually, in one of my second interview meetings, what I had presented to him was one of the financial models that I created. And yes, that was a model that I had created, but where I'm going with the story is that the the education that I got by that time in 20, yeah, that was 2019 when I had my interview process. So 2019, by 2019, I had taken two courses, CI 101 and 102 already by that time. And I was just taking CI 103. And so CCIM is something that I took 101 in 2017. It was someone had mentioned it to me. I researched it and I was like, this is something that I want to pursue because hope I'm believing that it will open other doors for me. So that's why I took it. Took my courses, took my 101, 102 by 2019, took 103 in 2019, and then, was able to use the foundational skills of financial modeling and the sort of the templates that they gave us and create a new template or a module on returns that I was able to present during one of my interviews to work on the development
Now,
side.
wait a minute, Tarayu, back up a minute. Back up.
Yeah,
You were in one of your classes or had taken your classes for CCIM, your coursework, and
yeah,
used one of those models from a class you had just taken to present to your interviewer for the job that you obtained.
correct. Yes. So that's yeah, that's true. And that's like one of the ways it's like, because in a prior, this was like my second or third interview, I think. And it was like, hey, we're doing developments. They'd have all kinds of models. And one of the things that they were trying to solve for at the time was how can we show returns to our partners, right? Like if partner A invests $1,000, or excuse me, 10,000, or whatever the number is, right? What kind of returns they would get. And I was able to show that module. Obviously they had their own modules, but I think it was more of a like, because it was my second or third interview, it was more of like, do I have the skill set to sort of work in this office and in this firm, right? And so that is like what the CCIM templates and the modules that they give you are great. But what I'm trying to convey here is that the education you get about that is more central, right? Because once you learn the concepts, creating new financial models, you'll be doing it all the time in your job. And that's something that I wanted to highlight for the group. Um, the other reasons I took CCIM was that, I was still relatively new to the industry. I still think that, since being in asset management, one thing that I'm rusty on, even today, is sort of new business development, right? Building relationships, finding new business and whatnot. Have I gotten better? A lot of people are saying yes. Even I say that yes on some days, depending on how the day is going. But, I think all of us, most of you are probably on this call is because that you're already in commercial real estate or in some capacity in real estate and are trying to figure out what can you continue to do to add value and bring in new business, right? And so you're already in this room because you're already doing that. And I just wanted to highlight like how CCIM tools have been helpful to me. Um,
Thank you for that.
And the network, right?
Yeah.
One other thing that that we don't talk about much, but I think that even I need to start using more, is that there is a find a CCIM directory, right? A lot of the people, when I was going through, I would actually just sometimes email some of those people, be like, hey, can I just at least get coffee with you to understand what your priorities are? So definitely utilize that piece of it as well. The so after I took my as I was doing my coursework, the other thing I had to keep in mind was that, for me to get that PIN, the designation, I need to make sure that I'm working on transactions as well, right? So,
Mhm.
make sure that as you're taking your coursework and education, you're keeping your transactions organized as well. I mean, it doesn't have to be that much organized. So I basically created a Google folder and was putting everything in there. So when the time came to prepare my portfolio, I know everything was in one place, and I just had to organize it and submit it for designation. Um,
Great advice.
yep. And then with regards to continuing to stay involved in CCIM, Um, I had heard of the board, but I had never been involved. And Mike Williamson actually, had one of the courses I had taken, on Thursday or Wednesday. Mike Williamson came to our course, presented about the Illinois CCIM chapter, and took us out for some drinks and like food afterwards and encouraged us to get involved. And so, I ran with it, and I showed up at one of the, board actually, it was one of the events initially. And then after the event, he's like, hey, you should consider joining the board. This was now after I had gotten my designation in 2021. And I said, I'm open to it. And next thing you know is currently have the privilege of being the president of the chapter. So, you'd be surprised how things change over time. And I'm hoping to see some of you on the board and eventually in this position as well. Why did I stay involved? Obviously, this is a volunteer, role, but I think, as I mentioned earlier, I still believe I'm sort of starting out in my career, especially in the business of building new relationship, in the business of meeting with building owners and landowners, and how we can continue to add value. So one of the reasons I stay involved is that I have an inbuilt network, and people like Sean, people like Amy, and others that are on board that are already doing other important work. And I can be connected to them and hope, be able to do transactions with them, or transactions with connection they may introduce me to, right? And so the reason for my involvement in the chapter continuously is to obviously to offer value to our members, right? All of us are sort of now hearing about AI, right? And so one of the next things that we're trying to do as a chapter is figure out, have a lunch and learn later this fall about how you can incorporate AI into your commercial real estate career. And we're trying to figure out how we can help you, provide that value to our members. And so that's, to long story short, I think that, my involvement in CCIM was primarily based on education, network, and the tools it offers to build my career. And everything else is resource that you can find out, figure out, Google it, whatever that may be. But the education, the network, and the skills that will really help you. So those are your basic building blocks, especially as you're focusing on your CCIM designation.
And that's basically all of the questions I had for today. No, just
Yeah.
no, that this is all great information. As Amy said, great pro tips, especially organizing that portfolio. A lot of us aren't in that stage yet as far as the portfolio being completed, but we are in the process of building it. So that does make sense to start organizing it now so that you're not scouring for all of those documents later. But you mentioned something earlier as far as why you went into commercial real estate, because obviously that's the nut and bolt of these conversations, why you went into commercial real estate and why CCIM. And so you've kind of taken us through that developmental journey for you for why you chose commercial real estate and then why you chose CCIM. And you took it further and indicated not only how it moved you into leadership, having these right connections, right, and your values align, but you stayed and now you're the president of the chapter. Now, not that that's anybody's goal, and I don't even know if it was your goal, but it's
Hmm.
something that came along the way during your journey on your path toward the pen once you acquired the pen, right? And so I'm hearing that the benefit, like you said, education, networking, and tools, networking came in really strong here. Um,
Yes.
right? Networking.
Networking came in strong, and that's important, especially in commercial real estate, right? So yeah, the networking is definitely helpful, but also, your the edge, like in terms of education and skills, I'll just say that, I didn't talk much about my work at DL3, but we over the since 2019, we've worked on some unique projects, even going through 2020, right? Like we were under um, in 2020 and early half of 2021, we had the COVID and what that was doing to real estate market, specifically office, right? So um, people say, "Oh, what type of transactions did you work on in 2020 and 21?" The two biggest transactions that I worked on and that were included in my portfolio in 21 were office transactions in
Yeah,
2020. No one would have believed that, right?
yeah,
And the thing is that these were very special and unique office transactions, but they were specifically focused on creating jobs in Morgan Park neighborhood of Chicago and Chatham neighborhood of Chicago. What we did was that um, both Blue Cross Blue Shield and Discover Financial Services were looking for large office space for their customer care center and back office operations. And we were able to develop those offices for them by using old Target boxes, right? Your 100 and like closed Target stores. So 125 closed Target stores. And with that, that was a risk we were taking, right? In 2019, we acquired those and we were like, oh, this is a simple. We'll just do another retail. We'll split them up. We'll do a grocery store. We'll do like, Ross Dress for Less and things to that effect. But that's not, 20 COVID had other plans. Now here we're sitting with two essentially boxes, nothing to do. And part of the thing was that we were talking to architects and read how can we redesign these boxes to bring in more natural light, to repurpose them so they're not just, sitting there vacant. Because we know that even at the time, retail was going through evolution as well. No one
mhm,
wants to stop shop at giant stores. People want to go to Target, but most of the new Targets are like 40 or 50,000 square feet, right? Like
yeah,
they're much more manageable.
yeah,
So I think that the exposure in that and that was very helpful to me in that sense as well because again, I tried to utilize CCM network to find those users, the leases, right? It
yeah,
didn't come from CCM network at the end of the day, but the goal is that you have to start hitting,
yeah.
reaching out to people before anything will sort of materialize.
Now, with that specifically with Target, since you mentioned that, um, who identified that? You on your team, who identified that for the customer that was in need? Who kind of,
That was Leon. I
oh,
mean, our principal that he identified that. But even like we were working on a real estate, sort of deal. And then it was at one time, we were talking with architects like, okay, how can we break this up into a grocery, a giant Target into a grocery, into whatnot. And then one of these during design calls, Leon was like, hey, what if we were to like repurpose these for office? And, we started talking, and then he had, at the time, we knew that Leon had spoken to Blue Cross Blue Shield, trying to figure out, understanding that they needed office space, right? Because if they were to get office downtown, they would have had to hire people um, essentially from the same neighborhoods that they're hiring from right now, but they would have to drive or take the train there, commute time, and come, into the loop because that's where most of the large floor plates were for office situation. And we were like, we can deliver you one large floor plate on one floor without having people to take elevators or stairs. And we can do that in neighborhoods that have generally been overlooked, right? Because initially they were like, oh, we'll just go to the suburbs. And we wanted to keep them in the city primarily so that we can target the neighborhoods where we had acquired these targets.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And that's literally my main mission for getting into commercial real estate. Years ago, I saw the needs in those communities. That's the South Side, for those who don't know. And I saw the needs in a lot of the underrepresented and underutilized real estate in those communities. And without having that interest, like you just shared, oftentimes people are looking to go to the suburbs. The last place they're looking is the South Side of Chicago. It's so debilitated in many, many areas. And but without the representation, it's going to remain that way. And so the only interest in those areas come from people who work, live, and play in those areas, but they don't have the expertise. And so here we are, right?
Yeah.
And I'm continuing that same desire that I had in putting that into a mentorship program to create whatever the desire is for others, but also build that repertoire of professionals in those areas as well to, many hands make light work to really make some changes on the South Side. That's my own personal mission for why commercial real estate.
Mm. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh, And I totally see, I totally understand that. And the company I work for, DL3, right? That's also our Leon Walker, our principal, that's also our focus. And, it was like, it was very new, something we were working on, right? Again, when we were in negotiations with both of those tenants, guess what I fell back on when we were negotiating and I was running the financial analysis as to like what lease rate makes sense, what kind of lease structure makes sense, what kind of returns we would expect. And of course, I had my CCIM templates as a starting point
Mhm.
to build on that, right? Like one of the other things you'll realize is that the templates are a great starting point, but as you get more and more into certain complex structures, you'll be creating your own, framework and modules to really evaluate that, the viability of that deal.
And when you created those financial models or that financial model, were you using the Excel templates that they in
Yes,
the
that
process?
was my starting point.
Nice. Very
Or
nice.
at least the skill set that because like some of our Excel templates may be like sort of locked and whatnot, but at least once you understand what they were doing, you can apply that on any Excel sheet one thing Leon likes to tell everyone in our office, like when people it's like at the end of the day, it's very simple math. Multiplication, addition, division, and percentages, right? Like anyone with a high school education should be able to do that. And yes, it may seem intimidating initially, just like CCIM, the CCIM coursework, but a lot of the people are in the same boat as you. And just opening up a conversation with a coffee or whatever that may be, you'll be surprised how many people are wanting to at least connect you. They may not be able to help you at the time, but they'll at least be able to remember and connect you with someone else.
Great point. Great point. Tell me, What's a challenge that you ran into that you found, whether CC or not coursework or your experience helped you with or failed you on? What are some challenges, or give me one specific challenge with the time here that you may have encountered during your real estate career that actually ended up on the plus side?
Mm. I part of the initial challenge on the real estate side, I think for me, and I think I still am, but it was like, I can do the technical stuff, right? And by technical, I mean like the modeling and whatnot. But one of the challenges that I'm still, I don't think I've sort of tackled, but one of the challenges is still like figuring out what the client needs, right? I think we're all sort of trying to figure that out, especially sometimes when transaction volume goes down. What is it that people need? And so, at least in my past transactions that I've completed, I can say that you'd be surprised that you'd be surprised that like even when you th even if you think it's a challenge, it may not be a challenge that they're viewing it, right? So to better understand your client's need will really help you not spinning in circles or basically running in the same place is what I'm trying to say. So understanding that, being not afraid to just pick up a phone and call. And even if, is a huge, I think for some people it's a challenge. It was a challenge for me, and it still is a challenge sometimes, depending on how the day is going, right? So, like, I think you'd be surprised at how many people sometimes just, at least in our industry, will pick up the phone and will talk to you. And at the very least, as I mentioned, will at least let you know, hey, this isn't a deal, or at least like you should talk to so and so. I'm not the right person.
Right. Exactly. So you got to get out of your own head. That's what it sounds.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I think
Agreed.
a lot of this with commercial real estate, that's what it is. We're in our own heads, and there are tools and resources that you've mentioned, like this chat, like the mentorship program that exists to kind of help people get over those hurdles.
Correct.
Because once you get out of your own head, it's only up from there because we've got all
Correct.
the tools and systems and resources that you need. Um,
Yeah.
Standing out as a problem solver and finding out what their problems are is a huge challenge in any aspect of real estate. How do you get down to the nitty gritty of identifying what that problem is and then coming up with solutions?
Yeah, I think part of it is like listening, right? Or just understanding. Like, most of the time people, like, when there are even in when we manage property, most of the disagreements in terms of like why haven't they paid rent, notice, all of that is usually because they haven't figured there is a problem that they haven't solved for them yet, right? Like some of the tenants we're dealing with them is that one of the reasons like is that they haven't figured out how they're going to relocate, how they will figure out their next space. And part
Mhm.
of that is just listening, understanding, and be like, hey, I understand you're also a business operator. What can we do to make you succeed in your next space? Or what can we do to make sure that I understand how your business is? I was working with a bakery client last year, and they had a huge vision. They wanted to do a lot of things, and we were able to accomplish a lot of it. It took them much longer. Like I was working with them at least for a year,
Mm, mhm.
before they even made a decision on them. And I'm like, this isn't gonna go anywhere. But after I understood their business, after I understood what their pain points were, I think I was better able to at least structure a deal that helped them figure out, okay, this is something that I can expand on. This is how I'm going to get from point A to point B.
Mhm.
And at least I know that I'm not just wasting time for a year. Something happened out of it.
Exactly. So getting
Yeah.
really granular with what those needs are, listening, finding
Yeah.
where the pain points are, and understanding
You'd
that.
have to, yeah, you really have to understand their business because that's how they're driving their decision, right? Usually in commercial, they're trying to figure out like, here's my pain point. What can you do to help me alleviate that?
Yeah, I like that. And that's what they want. They're looking to you as the professional to fix whatever's broken.
Correct.
They're looking for. Um, see if I have any questions in the chat. Do you see anything, Kay? I don't. Amy had to leave. We were going to do I was going to do a brief introduction of her before she left. But Amy Hall is my co-chair on the committee, the DEI committee, very instrumental in a lot of the internal processes that we do. So she had to leave early. She's having some challenges. So we wish her well and keep her in prayer. Um,
Certainly.
um, if you had one takeaway to give to someone about how you went about doing your CCIM courses, what would that be? Or would you change anything or would you keep it the same?
For me, and this is me, for me, I took them in person because I wanted to, I'm just a better learner that way.
Yeah,
And it was like, oh, I can connect with people. And as I'm trying to build up my network, I can connect with people in person much better. That's what I did. So I don't know if I would change anything. I think now with people with different schedules and challenges, we have online courses. So if that's where you shine, all for it.
yeah, makes sense. And we do have courses online. We have instructor-led courses online or self-paced, and then of course in person. So with all of these options, which as I understand, uh, pre my existence on the board, all of those options did not exist, and so people had to literally fly to these different locations to get their coursework in and things like that. So it's become very efficient for those who have traveling issues or just prefer to do things online or with an or self-paced. These are options that are available to get these courses done. Some people have taken them and gotten them done in 6 months, which was really, really rare. And some have taken, a year or two or more to get them. One of the things that I get a lot of questions about are from individuals who started taking these courses maybe even 10 years ago, and they're wondering what they can do. Some have finished the courses. Do they need to just go and take the exam? Has it been too long? Do they have to take the classes again? Um, what's your take on that for anyone who's probably had these courses under their belt for a while and they're wondering what they need to do 10 plus years later?
Yes. So I think that they, for designation, I don't know the answer. Like, do you know, like, how much? I think it's the last 5 years they must have taken it, right? For
Yeah,
courses.
and that's what I was
Okay.
thinking, 5 years, and so much has changed with the institute.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some things are not that easy to find on their website, and they know that. They've been working
Right.
on that. Yeah.
So I think that if it doesn't hurt to refresh. I think once you get into the classroom, you'll be able to, especially if you have taken courses like more than 5 years ago, it doesn't hurt to take a refresher course, right? Like, especially if you've already taken it in person before, doesn't hurt to do that refresher course online because you can read it. And I think now they have online chat rooms as well. So people that are doing the same thing can connect with one another and share ideas. At least I haven't taken it, but that's what I've heard. So if
Yeah.
anyone's in an online course, I'm curious about that experience as well. Um, and
Perfect.
so definitely do that. And then, doesn't hurt to go to CCIM events, right? Especially if you're a member, we are planning several free events for our members. Um, later this year, including one coming up in August 15th. It's a Friday, I believe. So that's our Deals and Donuts out in Niles, or if you're
Mhm.
near Central Illinois, we have one there as well. And we can send that afterwards. And then we'll be our lunch and learn events. Usually we try to keep them free or very minimal cost. So one of our lunch and learn events that we're trying to plan is for our AI event. And
Mhm.
so be on the lookout for that too. This way you'll be able to learn something and connect with others as well.
And look at that. You're hearing this right here first on the CCIM chat call. That's the importance of being on these calls. These events are amazing ways to network, like Gerard, you just shared. That was a heavy hit for him for a lot of the ways that he moved through his journey to getting not only his job at DL3, but ultimately become the president of CCIM Illinois. So networking at these events can lead you into unknown territories. So be involved. Check our website for registration and date information so that you can get yourself a seat or a place at the table.
Mhm.
Um, Words of wisdom, Shirayu. What do you have?
Thank you.
Words of wisdom. What's your favorite book? Give us a favorite book, favorite quote. What are you reading? What are you reading nowadays?
Yes. I'm trying to see if I have it in the shelf here. Yes, do. So the book that I'm reading most recently is, I'll type it in there, Growth
Okay.
IQ. I actually met with the author last. Yeah, when was this? This was at a conference. I met with the author. It was at a CCIM event, and she specifically wrote in terms of how certain businesses there's case studies, right? What she
Mhm.
specifically writes in this book about, like, why did Coca-Cola break through, whereas like other soft drinks didn't, right?
Yeah.
Why are some brands like all over the place, like Starbucks? Everyone knows what the Starbucks logo looks like or what McDonald's logo looks like. And so it's more about, like, how brands and how they grow. And specifically, I'm reading about that. So to better understand, at least in, you know, even in commercial real estate now, what's been changing is that, like, brands drive, like the real estate itself for certain retailers is an experience, right? No one's like sort of going to like merchant like department stores just for browsing the thing. There's a lot more like brands that are creating a retail experience. Like when you go
Mhm.
to, for example, even like Lululemon, right? It's like
Mhm.
that type of retailers, or like Nike, for example, right? So I think it's to understand, like, for me, I this was at a CCM event, the author was there, and that's the book I'm currently reading. Other books that I've read is that there is a development book that Leon gave all of us. I will send the name of that. I don't have it here on my shelf right now, but I have it at home.
Okay.
That was really helpful because the authors there in that specifically book, at least for the field I'm in, really show that it's not just finances, right? For yes, the money always matters, but like for a really good real estate project, especially a development project, that's where our
Mhm.
focus is, right? Is that design is just as important. Community buy-in is just as important. And so I'll send you the name of that book. But that book for me was at least in this industry, eye-opening, as to how, why some projects get done, what it takes to get a project done, and what the legacy of the project is.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And Kay, are you able to put Growth IQ, his book, in the chat? And then
Yeah.
Tiffany with an I at the end, last name Bova, Bova. And
Yeah,
yeah, we'll be
will
looking
do.
out for the name of that other book as well, and then we can send an email.
Yeah.
Perfect. Um, what about you, Kay? What are you reading right now?
I found the name
Apologies.
of that book. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm not reading at the moment. I'm getting my kids ready for back to school. And it's
Yeah.
been
Get
it's been quite busy at home for sure, but I
it.
definitely want to pick up reading again soon.
I get it. Well, he just gave you a great book, so let's start. We could start with that. I read a great book, just FYI, K to you. It was called. it's called Claiming the House Back, right? For moms with families and things like that. I'll send that over to you. But it was a great, great read for just peace, all right, which is what many of us are looking for. So that's just a sidebar. Thank you, Monique. Appreciate you showing up. Thank you. Last question. Do you have a favorite quote you want to kick us out with? Something you're used to thinking or saying?
And I a favorite quote.
And if not, no
Um,
worries.
no, not nothing I can think of I don't, yeah, at the
That's
time.
quite right. That's quite all right. Well, we thank you so much, Chirayu. Any questions? I don't see anything. Thank you for putting the book in there. Thank you. Any questions? Anyone that's on the call, if you have any questions, feel free to come off mute. There are just a few of us left at this time. And if not, we will give you the remaining time of your day back. Just wanted to make a few announcements on our website, which I can have Kay put in the chat as well. There are scholarships that you can apply for to assist with paying for the courses. There is a CRE development certificate. It's actually new from last year that you also can apply for. There was a CDEP scholarship, which was the cultural diversity, I believe, an equity program scholarship. They have paused that for now. So if you see that on the site, it has been paused by the Institute for now. And there's a renaming and some other logistics that they're going to be changing with that scholarship, but it has not gone away. For those who have asked, it is still around. It's just paused for now to go through these changes to make it more widely inclusive on the cultural side. So stay tuned for that. And last but not least, attend one of the events that Shirayu has already mentioned, the Deals and Donuts and the Future Lunch and Learn AI perspective that we'll be having as well. You have three for mentors, you have three mentees as well. Three chapter events that you are required to attend as a part of the mentorship program. Take advantage of doing so. You get a complimentary membership for the chapter as members and participants of the mentorship program for your first year while you're going through the program. Please take advantage of signing up for that if you have not already. Email the chapter admin, Cynthia, who has been sending you information like your handbook and things like that, invites to these events, and she will get you that information to get you signed in complimentary. Take advantage of that because you get into some of these events for free, some at a discount. So definitely want to take advantage of that among the other benefits of your membership that we will be sharing with you as time goes on and you can read up on as well. Outside of that, thank you so much for being a part of this event today. Once again, Shirayu, thank you
Thank
all
you.
for attending, for taking your time out, and enjoy the rest of your day.